Justin Bieber, a generational talent and one of the best musicians of all time, had to face generational levels of hate growing up. Logic was loved until a certain point in his career before the audience flipped on him, and only now is he really starting to gain everybody's respect back. And even crazier, I've never met someone who is a fan of Tom MacDonald. That hate's not being forced though, he's genuinely the worst musician I think I've ever heard. My point is, the hate against Russ is forced at this point, and here's why you should give his music a chance. Consider subscribing. It's free, and the bigger that number gets, the better person it makes me, because that's how it works. Now, first things first, this dude used to be an overly cocky and pretentious prick. Or that's how he came across for a portion of his career at least.
And put them onto some new wavelengths and new material knowledge-wise so they can use it to make their life better.
There are a few things that led to him being perceived this way by fans. First off, and probably the biggest reason, is the t-shirt controversy. Sounds pretty innocent until you look at what it was, which is back in 2017 when Russ decided to wear this shirt on stage, saying, "How much Xans and lean do you have to do before you realize that you're a fucking loser?" And then proceeded to go on a Twitter rant saying things like abusing Xanax and other pills, drugs, etc. in private because you're depressed / other mental issues is one thing, it's still not good. Constantly recording yourself doing drugs and putting up pics and videos of doing it is when you start choosing to publicly glorify it and make it an image, which you can clearly see where he's trying to go with this whole war on drugs thing. Wait, no.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
Sorry, Nixon haunted me for a second there. Anyways, it's clear what Russ was trying to say here, but the main issue came with the shirt he wore, which was just pretentious and pointless to wear and called people who struggle with drug abuse losers, which shows he clearly is choosing this stance on drugs instead of seeing the struggle people go through with drugs, how it actually is.
At the end of the day, like, I'm not the tough guy online. I don't do none of that. I leave that for that's why I also said in Kill 'Em All, I leave that for the WWE rappers, bro. I leave that for the rappers who, because they think they have face tats and tote guns, that, like, we're supposed to be scared of something. Like, y'all are only scaring 14-year-old white kids who don't know any better. Like,
and things like this play into another huge reason people love to hate him. He talks and acts like he's the savior of hip-hop, or at least he used to. In recent times, it really feels like he's dropped this whole persona of being better than thou. But I'll go into that side of things here in just a minute. But a lot of his early music was filled with lyrics that are just like calling other artists out for what they say when they've quote-unquote done nothing, but at the same time, he hadn't really done anything either. And then on top of that, his early music, in my personal opinion, really wasn't good, which added on to the fact that him saying stuff like this.
Hey, before y'all say why y'all boasting, it's very clear that rappers boast more than me with less. So why don't you ask them, why are they bragging and boasting their jewelry and cash when they didn't make the Forbes list? Y'all are real life broke, keeping up a facade.
While releasing music that sounded like this.
Make his boss's boss feel it. Now my bras won't fit in the palm of my hand.
Didn't go over well with the mass audience. The third major reason is just how inauthentically douchey he came across at times. In his interviews, he would try to come across as some profound artist who has such a unique and special way of thinking about life, and then he'd say some shit like,
Mentally fuck the shit out of her.
and you couldn't do anything but shiver from being so uncomfortable that your body reacts negatively and then your eyes roll in disgust. Now, I know I just laid out 3 pretty ironclad reasons for a musician to be hated by the masses outside of his cult following, and I completely understand if you don't like him from past actions, because a lot of that stuff will stick to your image forever. In fact, I got bullied in Discord when I told some of my buddies that this is the video I'm working on, and reasonably so. Regardless, I am here to defend Russ and stand on the point of people can change with time and have a fair shot at winning over those who hated them the most. And I feel like Russ is a good person of choice for this viewpoint because over the last couple of years, he's really turned things around.
Rick Rubin has this great quote in his book where he essentially says, like, the world isn't waiting on more of what they've already heard.
You can notice this change in his music too, with what I call the shift. Or at least that's what I put it in my notepad as when writing out the concept of this video. The shift began shifting, ironically, around the time he wore the shirt when he released There's Really a Wolf in 2017. Musically, this felt like it was his most authentic sounding album at that point in his career, and he followed it up with Zoo. Now, he was bigger than ever before at this point, however, it felt like Zoo was truly a step back from his previous album. But change is something that comes with time. And in 2021, when he released Chomp 2, the follow-up record to Chomp, which released in 2020, Chomp 2 feels like he's completely found himself musically, and he absolutely kills it on this one. And the track list has a feature list of giants alongside him.
It's that time. It's that time.
And then he released Santiago last year. Santiago is his best album in my opinion, and it feels like this was a huge step up for him artistically. He's come out and said that he's taken a lot of inspiration from Tyler, the Creator, and his world building that he does with each album he releases, and it shows here. Since Santiago, it feels like he's let his guard down publicly too. Doesn't feel like he's really attempting to be someone he's not, but he comes across as a more organic personality that still isn't worried about sharing his opinion, but he shares it in a much more reasonable way. Right now, he's in the midst of finishing his next album. He's continuing to do what he's always done and releasing as many singles as anyone possibly could, and his new track SSX Tricky is a great song to have on. He's also shared that he would have gone about the t-shirt thing differently and understands how it came across at the time, which further proves that everyone can mature with time.
You know, when you're saying things that are not the popular opinion, there's going to be people who don't like what the fuck you're saying.
And he honestly shares great advice to any artists on the come up. It doesn't feel like he's trying to be some profound prick anymore, but it's genuinely really solid advice, and it's coming from someone who has proven that you don't have to give up your independence and sign to a label to be massively successful.
When I got slapped with reality of like, wait, people don't like me? Then who am I?
We'll see if Russ is able to shake his reputation in the coming years, but the dude isn't slowing down. His music has only improved over time. He's been accountable for his missteps along the path of his career.
For the first 8 mixtapes, I was living in just my own little bubble when I was making them. And I loved them. I thought they were the greatest shit ever. I would tweet like, oh, I'm about to blow up off of this. And then I would go and play like Take Care by Drake. And I would have the honest moment like,
yikes.
no, my shit's not like
It's
that.
not there yet.
Yeah, it's not there.
And he isn't trying to come across as a savior of hip-hop anymore, instead opting for a generous approach, being willing to help people out as they find their way through the industry too. All I'm saying is, you may have hated him in the past, but don't let that hate stop you from trying his new stuff out, because you never know if you're stopping yourself from finding music that you genuinely enjoy. In his own words, trust your taste.